shores of old Lake Erie stands our alma mater true. Fredonia state we proudly honor, with its colors white and blue. Welcome to our latest podcast, Reflections of Fredonia. I am Jack Croxton, former professor here at the college. I finished up a couple years ago and thought about what do I want to do now in retirement. And I began to think, boy, it would be a great thing to talk to alumni, former students, find out what they're up to these days, and give them an opportunity to reflect back on the time they were an undergraduate here. We're recording the podcast from right here in Fredonia at the Fredonia Radio Systems. That is Fredonia's student-run radio station.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe Kowalik. I graduated from my undergrad in May 2024 from Fredonia, and I studied journalism and psychology, and I had minors in English and political science. And I am currently attending Fredonia for my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
For today's podcast, we have a very special guest. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by telling us your name and which year you graduated from Fredonia?
Hi there, everyone. My name is Jeff James. I'm from the class of 1991. I graduated with a BS in Communication Media with a business minor and a radio production specialization.
So while you were here at Fredonia, what courses sort of stand out for you, and maybe what professors?
Totally. I took a lot of communication classes. Professors that stood out for me were my advisor, Dan Berggren. I took some radio production classes with him. Also, Joe Chilberg, which he was a communication professor, and Ted Schwalbe, who I took news production classes. So yeah, a lot of great memories, a lot of great professors.
Did you ever go bowling with Ted? You know, he's
No,
quite the bowler. He's had a few 300 games.
no, I never did. That's so great. The funny thing about Ted, and this is going to really date me, but he had, when I went to school in Fredonia, we didn't use email. It was like just the beginning. And Ted said, "Watch, email is going to change the world." And we like, sure.
Yeah.
Because we were also, of course, used to mail and all that. We didn't have a full concept. So, yeah, and we had to go to the learning center, and we had to actually email, each other. And Ted would email us the assignment, so we get used to kind of like understanding what this kind of new communication was going to be. It was, yeah, and then think about it. This was just in the 80s. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I went to school in Fredonia in 1987 to 91. So it was
Oh,
during that time period.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. Well, he knew what he was talking about.
that's true. He was
Absolutely.
definitely right.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. So, what made you want to come to Fredonia in the first place?
Yeah, there wasn't very many options for schools that had a music industry or music business curriculum. There were like that I could afford, honestly. There was SUNY Potsdam, SUNY Fredonia, and CUNY Baruch. I wanted to experience some of the college life away from my parents, but I didn't want to like leave New York. So it was between Potsdam and Fredonia, and Potsdam was even colder than Fredonia. I don't think I would have been able to last up there. So I did I did I did choose Fredonia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I imagine you did encounter a little bit of snow here, though.
absolutely. The lake effect snow there is like nowhere else if I've ever experienced. It was just it's something specific to Fredonia right off of Lake Erie. So yeah, that's my memory with those little pellets of snow, and
Mhm.
it's
Hmm.
yeah, totally.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in terms of other memories at Fredonia, were you involved in like any extracurricular kinds of things while you were here?
Yeah, I made sure at first, before I went to Fredonia, I loved college radio. So I knew I wanted to get involved in college radio. So that's when I joined, WCVF. And while I was there, I was also involved in WNYF, which was a TV station, The Leader, which of course, is the paper, and Spectrum, which did the concerts. I didn't do it all at the same time, but I spread it out over my 4 years there. It was first the radio station, and then I loved writing, so I joined The Leader and became their music critic for the paper, and I tried to tie in everything with music, so just to keep myself focused and have something to build my resume on. So I created a live TV show for NYF, and in Spectrum was the concerts. So I tried to have all that covered while I was there.
Do you have any memory of Spectrum? Any particular group that you brought in that you
Oh,
remember?
yeah, yeah, no, great question. One of my favorite, and it wasn't even a music group. We had brought in Pauly Shore, who was
Oh, that's
a
cool.
comedian. Yeah, the Weasel, and it was an event. He was Pauly, and he was drinking, and it got really messy. But it just
Oh.
was really something of a of an event. I think at that time we had to tent off or fence off the students from drinking, because I don't know if because we had to. It wasn't like everybody could drink at that day. You remember that time period. I
Right.
think the age
Yeah.
was 21 or something. So
Mhm.
we had to make sure that the people were in a special area to drink.
Mhm.
But Paulie was drinking all day.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. Oh.
We also
Yeah.
brought in Cheap Trick. That was a lot of
Oh,
Oh,
fun.
that's
Cheap
wow.
cool.
Yeah, Cheap Trick and REO Speedwagon. We had a lot of fun, and while I was on Spectrum, we also did Lisa and Colt Jam and Rob Bass. All these memories are flooding back.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was it was it was pretty diverse. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, there was the crew was really they wanted to give the students a full spectrum, obviously, experience.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
That is. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of also mentioned that you were here at FRS for a while, and I did send you your station manager letter. I don't know if you saw it
Uh,
that we
I
found.
did.
It was
I
very
did.
cool. It was cool.
Thank thank you. That
Of
that was
course.
that brought back a lot of great memories. Yeah,
Yeah.
not just being a DJ. My first DJ shift on CVF was from 12 to 3. I was a freshman. That's the only spot open, and so I did that. But then I got involved. I wanted to be music director, so I kind of like assisted the music director at the time, Rebecca Carpenter, and I became music director of the rock station, which at the time was Rock Radio 600, and then assistant station manager and station manager. Yeah, it was really really fulfilling. I really really loved doing that time there.
Yeah. Did you participate in any of the events that FRS was doing?
Yeah, no, God, we had Battle of the Bands, which was
That's cool.
an event that CVF had sponsored. We did it in the. It wasn't called the It was what do they call that space?
The NPR.
Bah, yes, yes, yes. And it was really great. We did that. We also did a lot of community outreach, which was great. We wanted to make sure the community was involved with the station, and we volunteered in town. I forget if it was a food drive or one of those events in Dunkirk.
Well, I know you've had a very successful career working in the music industry at Sony Music. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, I've been working with Sony for 29 years. It's been really fulfilling, and I work in the legacy recordings A&R department. Legacy is a division of Sony Music proper. So we basically handle the catalog music of the label. Anything that's like 4 years, 4 or 5 years old after release kind of drops down to us, where we then do specific campaigns around anniversaries or any kind of events that the artist wants to do. I mean, we were set up to basically kind of fill in the gaps between artists off cycle, what they call it, while they're not recording, that we kind of help and fill in, so like there's a consistent flow of music for the fans and everything. And I just worked on this past Friday was the 25th anniversary of Britney Spears' "Oops, I Did It Again." So that's one of the things that I do, and for that project, I handle the audio aspect of it, which means that I kind of research what recordings happened during that time period and see and stuff that's not or audio that's not on the digital service providers like Amazon or Spotify, and it's kind of fill in the blanks there, and then we expand the main album to include these bonus tracks. I commissioned two new remixes for the project, so it was really a really fun project.
Hmm. So in the time that you've been working, have you ever had a chance to rub elbows with anybody famous?
I Yeah, it still just makes me one of my proudest moments was meeting Cyndi Lauper, and it was for me
Oh.
a full circle moment because her album, uh, She's So Unusual, was one of the first albums that I bought with my own money, and
Mhm.
I worked on a project with her, Let the Canaries Sing. It was a documentary that she did about her career, and we worked on we wanted to put a piece of a put a music collection together on vinyl, and she was very involved with that, and we communicated over the phone and everything, and then I got a chance to meet her when she was in town, so it was a full circle moment. It was just like I had to make sure to be professional, but inside I'm like just fanning out. So that was one of my favorite moments. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well,
yeah.
when Chloe and I embark on our recording career and become famous, maybe in the legacy, you'll be, playing some of our music years from now.
You got it, man. That's no, that's what we do. That's what we do.
I love it. So, what would you say is your all-time favorite part about your job?
Oh, being creative. It's just really it's almost like putting a puzzle together. And, of course, you always have the main album, which was released, say, 20, 25 years ago. But how can we make this experience feel or be fresh or be interesting for people now? Because there's always a new generation of people kind of discovering music.
Mhm.
So being creative and like, okay, this would be great. This was a remix, or this was a song that might have been a B-side that wasn't included on the album that we can now include and kind of make it a more comprehensive package. So that's what I really love doing. It's just kind of like digging in the weeds and understanding what was recording like back then and what songs and why maybe a song wasn't included. And of course, the artist, Sony's artist first, um, has the say in what is presented. Because you know what I mean. Sometimes there's a reason why a song wasn't included on a record, and you got to be respectful. So there's a balance there, and then that's what I really enjoy about it.
For sure.
Boy, it
Yeah.
sounds like you've really had an enjoyable career.
Yeah, it's been pretty full spectrum. I mean, when I first when I first got hired at Sony, we were doing vinyl. I mean, this was in the mid '90s, and we were doing cassettes, and then of course, CDs, and then it moved on to MP3s, and then it moved on to streaming, and now we're back to vinyl. So it's like really uh, a journey, and it's just like okay, but also familiar at the same time. It's really something.
Right. Well, you've certainly have been able to experience a lot of transitions during the
That's it.
time you've been working.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how do you feel your time at Fredonia has helped to shape your career and where you are today?
Yeah, it was definitely the classes, the class sizes for me were a big help. They weren't like big stadium or big like auditorium style classes that we have at Fredonia. They were normal high school sizes, not normal classrooms with like what, maybe 30 seats. That was great. I mean, of course my business classes were big. Those were at Thompson Hall, and the teachers and the professors, they were always so welcoming and so open. Especially Dan. I mean, it's just like any kind of questions, any kind of navigation I needed to 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 um to do. They were there for me because the thing about it is, when I did go to Fredonia, it was like I was mentioning, a music business curriculum, but it was performance based, and I'm not much of a performer, even though I did try, intro to guitar, intro to piano. I even took, conducting one and two, which was fantastic. Music theory wasn't a big thing, and I did a lot of ensemble credits with with the choir, with the orchestra, and the chorus. We did Handel's Messiah was one of our events, but I wasn't it wasn't working for me as far as being a performer. So that's why I transitioned over to communication media. That's why, and that kind of like encompassed the business side. That was always my focus. I wanted to be on the business side of the industry, and understanding communication and how it works is why I changed majors and graduated with communication media.
Yeah. Speaking of Dan Berggren, he certainly
Yeah.
had a nice second career after leaving Fredonia, recording the music of the Adirondacks.
I know. Yeah, it's just been fantastic. I follow him on Facebook and
Mhm.
everything, and it's just so cool. He had an independent record label back then. Kind of inspired me, to see how an independent artist like Dan was able to navigate being a professor and also being an artist. And it was Sleeping Giant Records was his label, and he had recorded some music back then as well. I think the Cannon Street Irregulars was his group when he was
Oh, yeah, Newton
yeah.
Street, Newton
The Newton.
Street
Oh my,
Irregulars.
that's it, Newton Street. Yes, wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's great.
Aw,
Yep.
Yeah,
Uh,
awesome.
yeah.
So, what advice would you offer for current Fredonia students?
It would be to definitely one, follow your passion. But while you're in Fredonia, make sure whatever major you pick is that you kind of cater your course load or your focus on that. I mean, I know that everything that I tried to do always circled back to music. And I took business law, so I tried to do a paper on is record labeling at the time was parental guidance stickers. Is that against our First Amendment rights? So censorship, like that kind
mm,
of stuff.
mhm.
And I just tried to everything, even like statistics, like trying to understand how that works with numbers and royalties and all that. You just always focus on what you want to do, and kind of like gear your course load and your focus on that. So like when you do graduate, at least you can say, look, this is what I did during school, and I've always had this this goal in mind, and this way you can show that on whatever on your resume, or even when you speak to a human resource person or personnel. This is what you can explain what you're doing, in college.
Well, that is definitely sound advice.
Yeah, man.
Well, that just about does it for our interview today, Jeff. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just thought about this when I was, preparing for this. There was a story, and the steps leading into the library were always these huge, huge steps, right? I mean,
Yep.
it would take about like 3 or 4 steps to get up there, and then on the other side there were these small steps. You know,
Yep.
when I was there, they had told me that was intentional, meaning that, to gather education, to gather knowledge, it requires work, and it's going to give you that momentum to like climb these steps. And then once you get to the library and you get your knowledge and everything, it's a little bit easier. So that's why the steps leaving the library were always smaller. And I always wonder, do they ever still tell that story, or is that something that it's one of those things that kind of stuck with me
What
with my
I
time in Fredonia?
what I think about that is never let the truth stand in the way of a good story.
Love that. Yeah, so those are one of the things that I cherish about Fredonia. It's so charming. What a great time.
Yeah, actually, I think when I was coming in, they told me that they had the steps so you would have to take your time going up, and it was so you would interact with the other people around you. And I don't know, yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know, these stairs are just really philosophical, I guess.
I guess, boy,
Exactly.
we've really veered off.
Wow.
We've veered off here into some pretty wild territory.
No, but dude, those are the things, man. You got to cherish. And you know what? My time at Fredonia, as well as my friendships that I gathered, and the connections. I'm still friends with a lot of people still today from Fredonia. So I'm really grateful.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for appearing on our podcast today. And
sure.
I am Jack Croxton.
And I'm Chloe Kwolek, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Fredonia state,